Hello fellow Earpers and welcome back to my Wynonna Earp recap. Today we're going to talk about episode 207, which was called Everybody Knows. And this had quite an easy structure to do a recap with because we essentially have two storylines. We have the boys and the girls, and they interact a bit with each other, but not that much. I really liked this episode. It was more humor episode. Let's talk about like this one thing that happens right at the beginning, the story with the widows. We just learned that the Earp squad is onto the Gardner sisters, and they actually think that they connect to the widows, and Wynonna already thinks that the Gardner sisters actually might be the widows, but she's not sure. She just has a feeling about it. But finally they're getting to investigate the Gardner sisters, because at the moment we have this situation where we as the audience know that they are the widows and we know what they're up to, but our main characters don't. We also see them burning the head of Constance Clutie, and this does probably have the effect on Doc that he's mortal again. We don't really know, but the head gets burned. It says holiday in a way that is barely understandable, and right after that we also do have a scene with Doc where he starts coughing, and that might be his tuberculosis coming back. It's not really clear, but also we do have this scene right after the head of the Stone Witch with the ghost marshals where they say he has finally been decloaked. That makes me think that the spell Clutie cast on Doc Holliday actually was also cloaking him from like the whole timeline, because he was made immortal until, as long as she lived. Maybe let's go on with the storyline of the ghost marshals, and we don't really know who they are. We know they're historical figures, but we don't really know why they are ghosts, why they still have the power to go and hunt down Doc Holliday. The interesting thing is they're US Marshals as well, but they're not Black Badge as far as I understood it. And they just waited in kind of a ghost town, as it looks in the beginning, to go and find Doc Holliday. In this storyline with the boys, we actually have Jeremy having his big moment. We have Reese, the head ghost cowboy, attacking the three guys in the Black Badge Division office, and Jeremy grabs the stapler and throws it at him with a no, and then it just goes through the ghost. He almost had his big moment. He didn't have it in the end. And then we see that Dolls is actually able to knock him down, even though he said that nothing from this earthly world can hurt the ghost marshals. But Dolls is part demon, probably, so it's safe to assume that because of his part demon, he could actually hit the ghost marshal. And with Jeremy, we have the scene in the beginning where they do surveillance on the House of the Gardners, and we see just how excited Jeremy is to be part of the chosen family, how he talks about Wynonna's baby, about the possibility of there being a baby in their group of friends, co-workers, family. He's, I think, the only one super excited right at the beginning. He's the one being like, hey, can I babysit from time to time? I'm really looking forward to it. And Dolls is still a bit like, nah, my relationship with Wynonna is over. Doc is like, wait, what? I'm maybe not the father. And Wynonna is still in denial at the beginning of the episode. Waverly's freaking out because there might be another father. Jeremy is the only one who's really embracing the pregnancy at the beginning of the episode. Then we have the interaction between Doc and Dolls. And Dolls actually tries to be the supportive friend, to be like, okay, you know what? We've been fighting over Wynonna, kind of, but I accept that you're going to be the father of this child, and that we have to be grown-ups about this, and that we have to get along for the sake of Wynonna and the child. And Doc is just completely in his own world, not just because he got to know that he might not be the father, but actually because he's fighting the ghost marshals. And during this storyline, he also says that he wanted to fight his demons alone, to not bring it into their family, into their home. But he kind of doesn't talk about it, which is very Doc Holliday. Like Waverly said, the more he feels, the less he talks. And I think that's a very emotional situation for him, because his like very, very old deeds kind of come up to him, and he has to fight his demons from the past, which he thought would be long dead, and he tries to not bring it into the family, but in the end he does. But also the family kind of saves him. It's a very nice metaphor for the whole thing. Then we have the last scene with the ghost cowboys, where they're about to kill Doc. Then like Dolls shows them, oh, he's also a US Marshal, everything's gonna be fine. And then we have Jeremy saying kind of at the end, oh, you guys, in his dreamy Jeremy voice. But I think it's very interesting, because Jeremy is generally portrayed as kind of an oblivious character, but he is very perceptive of the group dynamics. Like, he knows what's the line of conflict between Dolls and Doc. He's just, let's say, a bit naive about it, or he perceives it, but he doesn't think that, like, special about it. He also perceived Wynonna's pregnancy quite early, but he didn't think it was something to just mention to everybody. So I think he actually knows quite well what's going on. It's not oblivious to the whole thing like it was portrayed maybe at the beginning of the season in his interactions with Wynonna and Waverly. Let's move on to the storyline about Wynonna's pregnancy and the possible father of the child. We've been waiting for this for like, I think, one episode now. Not that long, but it was one of the things that came up quite early in the fandom, being like, okay, who's actually the father? And we were pretty sure that the answer wouldn't just be as easy as, oh, it's Doc Holliday, problem solved, but that Wynonna might have slept with other people during the time frame where she could have gotten pregnant. And for me, it's very interesting that Wynonna starts the episode with still being in a denial about it, with still being very uncomfortable about it. We see it in the way she interacts with Dolls right after they leave the gardener's house, also in the way she interacts with the doctor. She kind of accepts her help, but on the other hand, she's really afraid of being judged, and she doesn't really have the feeling of this pregnancy being real. And in the end of the episode, we have her kind of acknowledging, okay, yes, this is a baby, I'm gonna have a child, this is how it goes. And in between, we see kind of a process, especially the Reverend Jonas, who might be the father of her child, is a character which purposes is to process Wynonna through this kind of. So because he's such a big jerk and he's trying to like break Wynonna down on the whole thing, she finds the strength to be like, no, this is my baby, I do decide how to raise it, it's gonna be an Earp no matter what or who her father is. And then she kind of accepts the whole pregnancy and owns it. And that's a very interesting process to see during the episode. Maybe we talk a second about the moment where Waverly accidentally tells Doc about him maybe not being the father. Because we clearly see Doc being heartbroken by it. He's a lovesick puppy when it comes to Wynonna. Everyone knows that. Waverly pointed out with saying that Doc knows no strings attached holiday is basically non-existent and he's all strings. But it's going to be interesting how Doc's going to deal with it, because he wants to be supportive, and Dolls also later tells him that he has to be supportive, he needs to be the father of this family. But on the other hand, I think he's really hurt that Wynonna didn't tell him. So I assume that this storyline is not over yet. Then we have the scene with Nicole and Wynonna at Pussy Willows, the strip club. And that is a genius scene. Like, the acting is on point, very good. I've read a few articles explaining to me that acting drunk apparently is very, very hard, but it was done very, very well by Kat Burrell. And we also see this, like, relationship between Nicole and Wynonna grow, because Wynonna can rely on Nicole, and she was kind of very overprotective towards Waverly during the whole Gooberly situation, and trying to keep Nicole away and said some very hurtful things. And Nicole, the very, very good person she is still there, is supportive, is saying, yeah, I'm gonna go there with you, I'm gonna help you get that saliva sample and solve the situation. I'm gonna drink for free, which seems like a very altruistic and in the end painful thing to do. Just saying drinking Christmas peppermint shot sounds like the worst thing ever to me. Yeah, and she's still smart while drunk. I was very, very impressed. I also liked the conversation about basically, no, not sex work, but like how Wynonna worked in the strip club, because Nicole asked, okay, what kind of girls end up here? And in the end we find out that Wynonna used to work there. And for me that's a very important and powerful message, because Wynonna is our hero in that series, and we know that she's not flawless and anything, but it kind of gets us to a point of acceptance where you can say, no, it's fine that she worked at a strip club because there were good reasons she did. And that kind of, I have the feeling that's kind of a message of empowerment without saying, oh, this is something we all have to judge about. Because we already know Wynonna's not perfect. She's far from perfect, but that makes her such a real-life example and a character we actually connect to. I really like the connection to season 1 in that scene. So yes, they had to come up with a point in Wynonna's life. There has had to be somewhere in season 1 where she had sex with someone which got her pregnant. And I really liked how they decided to put it in after the whole Jack of Knives thing, because it makes sense. It really rounds up the story, even though when they wrote season 1 they clearly didn't know that this belonged there, but it was very, very well done in the connection between the 2 episodes. Waverly coming to the strip club and scolding Nicole, and if you take a look at Nicole's facial expression, it's basically the one of a kicked puppy. It's really oh, I'm really sorry. She doesn't say it, but she's clearly perceiving that Waverly is angry and reacting to it with her facial expression. That's very fun, so I encourage you to rewatch and pay attention to that. Then we have this scene in the middle of nowhere between Waverly, Nicole, Wynonna, and Jonas Revenant guy. And first, the scene is beautiful, like the sun and the background and the lighting and the way it's shot, great. And then we have this decisive moment where Wynonna owns up, owns her pregnancy. And it's easier because Jonas is a sexist asshole. Just putting it out there, in the case people might have not recognized, he's an idiot. But it's also kind of hurtful that she kind of has to, she has to shoot the potential father of her child. And she had to shoot so many, relatives and people she cared for. And it just keeps on happening and happening and happening. So I really feel for Wynonna, even though she might not have cared that much about Jonas, but if he wouldn't have been a Revenant, there might have been the possibility of him being involved at some point, but this was also taken from Wynonna, and she decides to rather be a single mother than to deal with a Revenant dickhead, which I completely understand, but it's also a bit sad. A few other things I've seen in the episode, not that many, just a few. So the way it's shot, we seen that Waverly might be half demon, half human, half Revenant, half human. Jonas says that it's supposed to be impossible, Revenant breeding with a human, but that it might have happened before. And in this second, the visual, we just see Waverly and we hear Bobo's theme, acoustically. And then we have Doc Holliday looking at his ring and saying he needs someone to visit. And we've seen that for the widows, rings are very important. They symbolize different kind of spells. So it's going to be interesting whom Doc actually have to go and see, because I think he's feeling that his tuberculosis is coming back. And I think next episode looked a bit like history lesson, time travel, whatever. Bobo is going to be in there. So we might see a bit of the Peacemaker law and Ghost River Triangle law and history, and I'm really looking forward to that. So see you next week and enjoy watching the episodes.